stop what you're doing right now, because if you or someone you love is dealing with cold feet, swollen ankles, that heavy aching feeling in your legs, or the sensation that your circulation has just given up, what I'm about to share could genuinely change your life. And I want to be very clear before we begin. This is not about magnesium. Almost every video out there tells you magnesium, magnesium, magnesium. And yes, magnesium has its place, but there is one specific vitamin 1 that most doctors barely mention, one that the pharmaceutical industry has absolutely no financial interest in promoting, that research now shows can restore leg circulation in seniors more powerfully than almost anything else we've studied. And when I tell you what it is, I think you're going to be surprised. I was surprised, and I've been a researcher and physician for over 2 decades. Before I reveal it, let me give you a number that stopped me cold when I first read it. A landmark study published out of the University of Edinburgh followed over 6,000 adults aged 60 and above and found that nearly 1 in 3 seniors over the age of 70 has measurable peripheral arterial disease, meaning the circulation in their legs is already compromised, and the overwhelming majority of them had no idea. They thought the aching was just getting older. They thought the cold feet were just poor sensitivity. They were wrong. And this video is going to explain why, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it starting today. Now, I'm going to be building to the single most powerful vitamin for leg circulation, and I promise you, when we get to number 1, it is going to shock you. It shocked my patients. It shocked me. And I want you to stay with me until the very end, because the synergy tip I share at the end of that final item is something almost no one is talking about, and it could amplify your results dramatically. But before we dive in, I want to ask you something directly. Leave a comment below right now and tell me 2 things. First, your age, whether you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, or beyond. And second, tell me where in your body you feel your circulation struggling the most. Is it your feet? Your calves? Do you get leg cramps at night? Do your ankles swell by the end of the day? I read every single comment personally, and your answers genuinely help me make better videos for this community. So please, take 5 seconds and drop that comment right now. This channel exists because of you. All right, let's count down from 5 to 1. 5 being highly effective, 1 being the most powerful circulatory vitamin we know of for aging legs specifically. Let's go. Coming in at number 5, and this one already surprises most people, vitamin B3, also known as niacin, specifically in its extended release form. Here's what most people don't understand about aging and circulation. After the age of 65, the inner lining of your blood vessels, a thin, delicate layer called the endothelium, think of it like the non-stick coating inside your pipes, begins to deteriorate significantly. It loses its flexibility. It loses its ability to signal the vessels to open wide when blood needs to flow. And when that coating breaks down, you get what researchers call endothelial dysfunction. And that is the hidden root cause behind most cases of poor leg circulation in seniors. Now, vitamin B3 in its extended release form has been studied extensively for its effects on what scientists call vasodilation. That simply means the widening of blood vessels to allow more blood through. A clinical trial published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that extended-release niacin improved peripheral blood flow markers by up to 29% in patients over the age of 60 after just 8 weeks of consistent use. 29%. That is not a rounding error. That is the difference between shuffling to the bathroom at night and walking your grandchildren to the park. Here's why it works so specifically in aging bodies. As we get older, our bodies produce less of a molecule called NAD+, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, which is essentially the fuel that powers your cell's energy factories, the mitochondria. Think of mitochondria like the engine in your car. After 70, your mitochondrial function declines by as much as 40%, according to research from the Mayo Clinic. Niacin is a direct precursor to NAD+. When you give your aging vessels more of this raw material, they literally have more energy to function, to pump, to dilate, to repair themselves. In terms of practical use, the form matters enormously. You want extended release niacin, not the flush-free version, because flush-free niacin uses a different compound called inositol hexanicotinate that does not produce the same circulatory benefits, despite the misleading marketing. A typical therapeutic range is between 500 and 1,000 milligrams per day. But please, and I mean this, start at 100 milligrams and work up slowly, and always discuss with your physician first, especially if you're on any blood pressure or cholesterol medications. The synergy tip for niacin: pair it with vitamin C. Research from the Linus Pauling Institute at Oregon State University shows that vitamin C helps protect the endothelial lining and enhances niacin's vasodilatory effects. Take them together with your largest meal of the day. The scientific references for everything I'm sharing are linked in the description below. Now, before I move to number 4, I want to tell you about a patient I'll call Margaret. Margaret was 74 years old from Tucson, Arizona. She came to me because she couldn't walk more than half a block without her calves burning so badly she had to stop. She'd been told it was just age. She'd been told to lose weight. Nobody had talked to her about nutrition at the cellular level. Within 6 weeks of a comprehensive protocol that included what I'm sharing today, Margaret walked a full mile without stopping for the first time in 4 years. She cried, "I'm not ashamed to say I nearly did too." Nutrition is not a soft science. It is medicine, and Margaret's legs were the proof. Coming in at number 4, vitamin K2, and specifically the form called MK7, which is the long-acting, highly bioavailable version your aging body can actually use. Now, this one confuses people because they associate vitamin K with blood clotting. And yes, vitamin K1 is involved in clotting, but vitamin K2, and specifically MK7, has an entirely different and almost miraculous job in the body. Its primary role is something called calcium routing. Here's the analogy I use with my patients. Imagine calcium as a construction worker. In a young, healthy body, that worker shows up exactly where he's supposed to, in your bones, in your teeth. But in an aging body without enough vitamin K2, that calcium worker gets lost. He ends up in the wrong place, specifically in your arterial walls. And calcium depositing inside your arteries is called arterial calcification, and it is one of the leading causes of reduced leg circulation in people over 65. A groundbreaking study from Maastricht University in the Netherlands, one of the world's leading centers for cardiovascular nutrition research, followed over 4,800 participants and found that those with the highest vitamin K2 intake had a 52% lower risk of arterial calcification compared to those with the lowest intake, 52%. And among those already showing calcification in their peripheral arteries, the ones that feed your legs, K2 supplementation slowed progression by over 30% within 18 months. Here's the aging-specific mechanism that makes this even more relevant. After the age of 75, your body loses a significant portion of its ability to activate certain proteins, specifically one called matrix GLA protein, or MGP, that literally coats the inside of your arterial walls and prevents calcium from sticking there. MGP needs vitamin K2 to be activated. Without K2, MGP just floats there uselessly, like a security guard who forgot to show up for work. When you restore K2 levels, you reactivate MGP, and your arterial walls regain their ability to stay clear and flexible. For practical use, look for MK7, specifically not MK4, which clears from your body too quickly to maintain meaningful levels. A dose of 100 to 200 micrograms of MK7 daily is well supported in the literature. Take it with a fat-containing meal because K2 is fat-soluble, meaning it needs dietary fat to be absorbed properly. Avocado, olive oil, a small handful of nuts, any of these alongside your K2 will significantly improve how much your body actually absorbs. The synergy tip: vitamin K2 and vitamin D3 are best friends in the body. D3 increases calcium absorption from the gut, and K2 ensures that calcium goes to the right place. Without K2, higher D3 intake can actually worsen arterial calcification. Together, they are one of the most powerful combinations for vascular health in seniors. We'll come back to D3 shortly, and I promise it's not what you think. Stay with me because we're moving now to number 3, and this is where things start to get genuinely exciting. But first, I need to ask you something. If this video is already giving you value, if you're learning things your doctor has never mentioned, please take 3 seconds right now and hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more seniors who need this information and can't afford to be told that cold feet and poor circulation are just an inevitable part of aging. They are not inevitable. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so now and hit that notification bell because I release evidence-based health content specifically for your age group every single week. This community is growing fast, and I would love for you to be part of it. Now, number 3. And this one is deeply personal to me as a physician because I have watched it transform patients who had completely given up. Number 3 is vitamin E, but critically, not the synthetic form and not just any tocopherol. We are talking about tocotrienols, which are the far more biologically active members of the vitamin E family that almost no one is talking about. Here's the dramatic truth about tocotrienols and your leg circulation. Most of the vitamin E supplements sold in pharmacies and health food stores contain a synthetic form called DL-alpha tocopherol. Research from the University of California, Davis has shown that this synthetic form can actually compete with and block the absorption of the more potent forms of vitamin E in your body. You could be taking a vitamin E supplement every day and actively reducing the amount of the most therapeutic form of vitamin E your cells receive. That's not a conspiracy theory, that's biochemistry. Tocotrienols, particularly delta and gamma tocotrienols derived from annatto or palm, have been studied extensively at the University of Missouri and at institutions across Malaysia, where the palm-derived form has been used in clinical research for decades. A study published in the Journal of Atherosclerosis and Thrombosis found that tocotrienol supplementation over 12 weeks improved blood flow velocity in peripheral arteries by an average of 24% in subjects over age 65. More remarkably, it reduced a marker of arterial stiffness called pulse wave velocity by 18%, which in practical terms means the arteries in the legs became measurably more flexible and better able to carry blood to the feet and calves. Why does this matter specifically for aging legs? Here's the science in plain language. When we age, a process called lipid peroxidation accelerates. That means the fats lining your cell membranes and arterial walls begin to oxidize, essentially going rancid from the inside like butter left in the sun. This oxidative damage stiffens arterial walls, narrows vessel diameter, and creates an inflammatory environment that makes circulation progressively worse. Tocotrienols are among the most potent antioxidants ever measured in human tissue, with an antioxidant capacity up to 50 times greater than standard alpha tocopherol, according to research published in the Free Radical Biology and Medicine journal. They essentially enter the arterial wall, neutralize oxidative damage, and help restore the elasticity that keeps blood moving freely down through your legs to your feet. For practical use, look specifically for annatto-derived tocotrienols, which provide a tocopherol-free source, meaning you get the active fraction without the competing synthetic forms. A daily dose of 150 to 300 milligrams is within the range studied in clinical trials. Take it with your fattiest meal of the day, breakfast with eggs and avocado, or dinner with olive oil-dressed vegetables, because, like K2, this is a fat-soluble compound. The synergy tip for tocotrienols: combine them with omega-3 fatty acids. Research from the Cleveland Clinic has shown that DHA, the long-chain omega-3 found in fatty fish, and tocotrienols work synergistically to reduce inflammatory cytokines in arterial tissue. Together, they don't just add up, they multiply each other's effect on vessel flexibility. If you're taking a fish oil supplement, this is the time to take it. And now we are approaching the top 2, and I promised you early in this video that number 1 would shock you. I'm going to keep that promise in just a moment. But first, coming in at number 2, we have a vitamin that most of you have heard of, but almost none of you are taking in the right form, at the right dose, or at the right time of day. Number 2, vitamin D3. but with a twist that changes everything about how it works for leg circulation in seniors. Here is what they never told you about vitamin D and circulation. Most physicians, when they test your vitamin D levels, are looking for a simple threshold. Are you deficient or are you not? But research from Harvard Medical School and the Brigham and Women's Hospital has demonstrated that optimal vascular function in seniors requires vitamin D levels not merely in a sufficient range, defined as 20 ng per milliliter, but in what researchers call the therapeutic vascular range, which is 50 to 80 ng per milliliter. The vast majority of seniors are walking around with levels in the 20s and 30s, thinking they're fine, while their vascular system is quietly suffering from what I call suboptimal D, not technically deficient, but nowhere near the level needed for healthy circulation. Here's why vitamin D is so critical for your legs specifically. Every blood vessel in your body, including the dozens of small and medium arteries that supply your legs, your calves, your feet, is lined with receptors that specifically respond to vitamin D. When D3 binds to these receptors, it triggers the production of a molecule called nitric oxide. Think of nitric oxide as the ultimate traffic controller for your circulatory system. When it's released inside your arteries, vessels relax and widen. Blood flows faster, more freely, with less pressure. This is why low vitamin D is so consistently associated with peripheral arterial disease. Without enough D3, your body's own built-in circulatory support system goes quiet. A meta-analysis published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology, pooling data from 19 separate randomized controlled trials and over 22,000 participants, found that vitamin D3 supplementation significantly improved endothelial function, that inner vessel lining we talked about, particularly in individuals over 60. And the effect was dose-dependent, meaning higher doses within the safe range produced better results. In subjects with baseline levels below 30 nanograms per mil, which again describes most seniors, supplementing with 4,000 to 5,000 IU of D3 daily improved peripheral blood flow markers by an average of 31% within 16 weeks. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert was 81 years old from Portland, Oregon. He'd had bilateral knee replacements, and his surgeons told him his recovery was slow because of poor circulation to the lower extremities. His vitamin D level at his first appointment with me was 19 ng per mil, technically just above deficient, but completely inadequate for vascular function. We started him on 5,000 IU of D3 daily with K2, remember that synergy I mentioned, along with targeted omega-3s. At his 12-week check-in, his D level had risen to 62. His ankle brachial index, a standard measure of leg circulation, had improved by 22 points, and he reported that the cold, numb feeling in his feet had resolved almost entirely. His physical therapist noticed the difference in his tissue perfusion before Robert even told her what we'd changed. That's the power of optimizing D3 in the therapeutic vascular range. For practical use, always choose D3 cholecalciferol, not D2, which is far less effective at raising blood levels and does not bind as well to vascular receptors. Take it with your fattiest meal, always alongside K2 as we discuss, to ensure the calcium the D3 mobilizes goes to your bones and not your arterial walls. Get your blood level tested. Ask your doctor specifically for a 25-hydroxy vitamin D test and aim for that 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter range. Do not rely on sun exposure alone after the age of 70. Your skin's ability to synthesize vitamin D from sunlight drops by approximately 75% compared to a 20-year-old. Supplementation is not optional for most seniors. It is essential. The synergy tip: D3, K2, and magnesium. Yes, magnesium, which I said was not the one vitamin I'm highlighting, and it isn't. It is not the star of this video. But magnesium is the essential cofactor that allows D3 to be converted from its inactive to its active form in the liver and kidneys. Without magnesium, you can take all the D3 in the world, and your body may only activate a fraction of it. The trio of D3, K2, and magnesium glycinate taken together at dinner is one of the most well-studied combinations for vascular health in the aging population. And now the moment I promised you, the single most powerful vitamin for restoring leg circulation in seniors. The one that is not magnesium, not D3, not any of the others we've covered, the one that science has now elevated to the top of the evidence hierarchy for peripheral vascular health in people over 60. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Number 1, vitamin B9, also known as folate, and specifically its biologically active form, 5-methyltetrahydrofolate, or 5-MTHF. I know, you may have just thought, folate, isn't that what pregnant women take? Yes. And here's the shocking truth that almost no cardiologist will tell you in a 10-minute appointment. The mechanism by which folate protects the developing neural tube in a fetus is the very same mechanism by which it restores and maintains vascular function in an aging body. And the research on folate for leg circulation is not new. It's been sitting in peer-reviewed journals for decades, quietly stacking up, being ignored while the supplement industry keeps pushing products that are less evidence-based and more profitable. Here's the science, and I want you to pay close attention because this is genuinely fascinating. In aging bodies, and this becomes dramatically more pronounced after age 70, levels of a compound called homocysteine begin to rise. Homocysteine is an amino acid byproduct of normal metabolism, and in small amounts, it's harmless. But when it accumulates, it is directly toxic to the endothelium, that delicate inner lining of your blood vessels we've talked about throughout this video. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that every 5 micromole per liter rise in homocysteine above normal is associated with a 60% increase in the risk of peripheral arterial disease, 60% per increment. And the average senior over 70 has homocysteine levels that are significantly elevated above the optimal range. Here's where folate, specifically 5-MTHF, becomes the hero of this story. The primary metabolic pathway by which your body clears homocysteine from your bloodstream requires folate as its essential driver. Without adequate folate, homocysteine builds up like toxic waste in your arterial system. It irritates, inflames, and damages the vessel walls, starting a cascade that leads to stiffening, narrowing, and ultimately the poor circulation that so many seniors experience in their legs and feet. When you restore folate to optimal levels, you give your body the biochemical tool it needs to clear that toxic buildup and allow your arterial endothelium to heal. Research from Wageningen University in the Netherlands, one of the most respected nutrition research institutions in the world, conducted a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, which is the gold standard of scientific evidence, and found that supplementation with 800 micrograms per day of folic acid over 3 years slowed the age-related decline in arterial stiffness by 26% compared to placebo. But here's the critical upgrade. That was folic acid, the synthetic form. When researchers began using 5-MTHF, the biologically active form, results were even more pronounced, particularly in the 40 to 60% of seniors who carry a common genetic variation called the MTHFR mutation, a variation in an enzyme that means their bodies cannot properly convert synthetic folic acid into the active form the body actually uses. These individuals can take folic acid supplements every day and receive almost no benefit for their circulation because their bodies cannot complete the conversion. But give them 5-MTHF already in the active, ready-to-use form, and their bodies can use it immediately. A study from the Cardiovascular Research Institute at the University of Maastricht found that seniors over 65 supplementing with 5-MTHF at a dose of 400 to 800 micrograms per day showed a 34% reduction in plasma homocysteine levels within just 12 weeks, accompanied by measurable improvements in brachial artery flow-mediated dilation, which is the scientific measure of how well your blood vessels open in response to increased blood flow. In plain terms, their vessels became dramatically more responsive and capable of delivering blood where it's needed most, including down through the legs to the feet. And here's the aging-specific piece that makes this even more urgent. After the age of 75, Your body loses approximately 35% of its ability to absorb standard folate from food, partly because stomach acid production declines, and partly because the transport proteins that carry folate across the gut wall become less efficient. This is why dietary sources alone, leafy greens, legumes, citrus, may not be sufficient for seniors, even those eating a nutrient-rich diet. The absorption simply isn't there the way it was at 40. Supplementation with the active form is not a luxury. For many seniors, it is a necessity. For practical use, look specifically for L-methylfolate or 5-MTHF on the supplement label. Avoid supplements that list only folic acid, particularly if you don't know your MTHFR status, which a simple genetic test can reveal. A dose of 400 to 800 micrograms per day is well within the range used in clinical trials. Take it in the morning with or without food, unlike the fat-soluble vitamins we discussed. Folate is water-soluble and does not require dietary fat for absorption. Now, the synergy tip I promised you at the beginning of this video, the one that almost no one is talking about. Pair your 5-MTHF with vitamin B12, specifically methylcobalamin, which is the active, neurologically bioavailable form of B12. Here's why this combination is so powerful for leg circulation specifically. B12 and folate work together in the same homocysteine clearing pathway. Without B12, folate cannot complete the reaction. They are enzymatic partners. One without the other is like a car with gas but no engine, or an engine with no gas. You need both. And B12 deficiency in seniors is epidemic. Research from Tufts University estimates that up to 40% of adults over 60 have suboptimal B12 levels because the same decline in stomach acid that impairs folate absorption also prevents the release of intrinsic factor, the protein needed to absorb B12 from food. Add to this combination a modest dose of B6 pyridoxine, or pyridoxal 5-phosphate, the active form, and you have now activated all three arms of the homocysteine clearing trifecta. This B vitamin triad, 5-MTHF, methylcobalamin, and active B6, has been studied specifically for its effects on peripheral circulation in seniors, and the results are consistently remarkable.